looking at cognitively guided instruction. This picture that I'm showing is the textbook you'll be using to learn about cognitively guided instruction. And cognitively guided instruction, which is abbreviated CGI, I'll call it CGI a lot, is a set of research about how children learn. So this was research that was done at UW-Madison, and it was done mostly with grades kindergarten to second grade students. And so what they are telling us about how children learn is exactly the children that you'll be becoming certified to teach. So this is exactly the age range and grade range that we're interested in. So this is going to be a nice, relevant piece that we're going to learn about. Let's see. So this is all about how children learn about math and about especially addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And what it tells you, it's not specifically about teaching. What it tells you is if you give children problems to try and figure out, what problems are going to be the most accessible? So where can children start without any special instruction? Once they know how to count, so they have that basic idea of number, what sort of problems can they figure out at first? What are the easiest problems? How do problems get harder? What sorts of problems are hard to understand? And also, what methods are the children going to use? So they try and give an idea of typical solutions that children give to problems. There's a set of CDs with videos that goes along with that textbook. And those videos are there to show what these children typically do to solve problems. So the children that they've chosen to highlight and include on these videos are included because they are doing strategies that are very typical of how children that age solve problems. The main structure that CGI works with and uses to classify things is a structure about problem types, and these are word problem types. So we work with word problems because when you have a simple, straightforward word problem, that can be some of the very most accessible way to think about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division to start with. So one thing that we regard as a typical progression is that children move from understanding things in a concrete way to understanding things in an abstract way. So, for instance, 3 plus 5 is pretty easy, but it's kind of abstract. It's more abstract than 3 apples plus 5 apples. And an even more concrete way of phrasing that situation is, I give you 3 apples, and then I give you 5 more apples. So there you've just got this kind of movie going in your mind. Well, I imagine that you've given me 3 apples, and then I imagine you've given me 5 more apples. So that movie shows the problem and explains what the problem's about. So those contexts are ways that children understand addition, ways that children understand subtraction. So we find that in some contexts, children can understand addition and subtraction very early on. They can right away understand what to do with this problem, whereas other problems cause trouble. So a problem that maybe it has exactly the same numbers, but it's phrased a little bit differently, and that's harder for children to figure out how to solve. So these are things that come out when you watch children trying to solve lots and lots of problems. And so this is what is summarized in this book, is what kinds of problems. So first you need to know their vocabulary. So you need to learn what they're calling the different problem types and how they're splitting up problems, because they've split them up in a clever way that follows what the children do. And then once you know how they're splitting up problems, then you can decode what they're saying about how problems compare and how this kind of problem is easier than that kind of problem. And that kind of problem has these things that make it more difficult. And so for children to understand these other kinds of problems, they need to learn some other things, or they need other experiences. So those are the sorts of things we're going to get out of our experience learning CGI. So we're going to learn their classification of word problems so that you know what they mean when they're talking about a particular type of problem. We're going to keep using that vocabulary through this whole class. I'm going to keep coming back and saying, now this is this CGI type of a problem. And so that tells us that ties to and is similar to this solution strategy. And then once we've got down that vocabulary while we're getting down that vocabulary, we're going to learn what problems are easier, what problems are harder, how do you write an easy problem. That's important. If you're in kindergarten, you got to be able to write easy problems that are easy to understand, and you want to know how to make things harder gradually. Okay, so how to ease children into learning more and more and more. So after you have the easy problems down, what's the very next thing you should be learning? Where should you be going next? So that's part of what we're going to do with those problem types. And we're going to start looking at solution strategies and what solution strategies children tend to learn and in what order. And so we're going to be bouncing around between this children's mathematics book and a couple of other books and resources that talk about solution strategies. And that is our goal for learning about cognitively guided instruction.